breaking news and trending talk with Mike and McCarty. Mornings on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty, and on the not on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker hotline.
No, because he's sitting right there.
He's sitting right here, looking at me like I've
lost your
got
mind.
A hornet's nest sitting on my head.
He can pretend to call.
Yeah, he's
Morning, Mayor.
Shreveport Mayor Tom Arsenault. Sorry, good morning.
My pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for coming out here to East Texas. I know you're busy.
Well, I assume I'll be busy. I was off the last 3 days and enjoying some time with some grandchildren.
Now that's cool. I do want to mention that real neat. You said you do kind of a family roots tour.
I did.
You take each
with two of my grandchildren. Yeah,
we
take each of our grandchildren when they're 10 years old. This time I had twins. So I didn't have the twins. My daughter had the twins.
You had the twins with you this weekend,
but we had the twins with us, and we had a great time. Toured the Atchafalaya Swamp on an airboat and did all kinds of neat stuff.
Saw some alligators, I'm sure.
We saw some alligators, some baby alligators, and it was quite a trip.
That's awesome. Friday, city turned off the water apparently to the Jolie, the Pines, and Villa Norte. Did that go as scheduled? I understand there was a bump in the road because there was no water for firefighters, so you had to make an adjustment.
Yeah, we had to actually make sure that there would be water for firefighting at I believe at Villa Norte, and
which turns out it was needed.
Yeah,
yeah, we have those are serious public safety issues there. All the more reason why the tenants really need to realize that they have to find another place, and we're continuing to help them find other places to live.
We had Vernie Howard on, and she said I believe Thursday, she said they had about 19 left. Are we close to finding? And she said, we're not going to leave anybody homeless. We'll put them in hotels temporarily if we have to. How are we doing on finding permanent homes for those folks? Do you know?
You know, I'd have to check with Bonnie Moore and really with Vernie because they are coordinating that. But I think they're making very good progress, and I believe that we'll end up being able to place everybody that needs placement.
So what now, Mayor? I know some of them there's demolition scheduled for some of the buildings at some of these places. Have you had any luck on getting the owners to step up and say, we're going to renovate, we're going to keep this, we're not going to let it, we don't want you to tear it all down? Where are we on that?
We really have had no successful contact with the owners, and it's very disappointing. I do not understand why somebody would operate a facility and then, as it appears to be the case with Jolie, just literally abandon it, just walk away from it. I understand that it's happening in some other places as well. Our city attorney has been, Marcus Edwards, has been communicating with other cities in Louisiana about this, and they're facing the same issues. We may get the Louisiana Conference of Mayors to look at some proposed state legislation. You know, any violation that the city has is going to be minor by nature of the fact that it's a city legislation. We cannot legislate felonies. We can only legislate misdemeanors. So it may well be that there's some need for some state legislation that would address this issue. It is, in my experience, and I've been involved in property standards in Shreveport since 1981, this is an unusual circumstance with multiple apartment complexes where the owners simply ignore their responsibility as landlords to their tenants.
Is the city pursuing legal actions against these owners?
Well, you have to remember that, you know, when you say owners, the owners of these entities are limited liability entities. They're either limited liability companies or they're corporations. And, you know, there's a policy to develop business that there's certain shields for people. But there are individuals behind this, and we're looking at what we might be able to do in terms of individual liability That's a long stretch, and so it's quite possible that it may need some state legislation to deal with the circumstance that we're dealing with here. It's an unusual circumstance, but it really has to get to such a level of either gross negligence or intentional actions.
Sure seems like we're there, though.
Well, I think that we're there, and we have to determine what the extent of our legal remedies are. And when you're trying to pierce a corporate veil or pierce the veil of a limited liability company to get individual liability of the owners, that's usually a difficult process, and it's a complicated one.
The Oak Meadows on Centenary Boulevard, we now have word from your fire department that there was a fire there yesterday. That's another one of the ones where you're going to be doing some demolition. There have been fires at Jolie. It appears it may be squatters, because Oak Meadows is shut down as well.
Right.
What can the police department, what can the city do about the squatters? I mean, you can come in and run them off. How many times? How many times can you keep coming back?
Well, we believe that the security of that is a joint responsibility. We certainly have the responsibility to respond to public safety circumstances at those places. But we do not have the ultimate responsibility for providing for the safety of people on private property. We respond to criminal accusations, to criminal actions on private property, but generally speaking, that is the landlord, that is the owner's responsibility.
The city's not a security service.
We're not a security service. And frankly, I don't think that the taxpayers want us to be a security service, because that takes away.
But if the owners have abandoned it, as you said, they've abandoned it, so other people have moved in. They're like, the city's not going to do anything. We can just move in here and stay all we want. It becomes your problem when they set fires or when there are shootings, that kind of thing.
That's right.
Okay.
And, so we'll set up some protocols for that. I meet every Monday morning with our staff at 9 o'clock, and we'll be discussing those issues. And I'll be meeting with both the chief of police and the fire chief to determine exactly what our responsibility is and how we're going to respond. Because particularly on the fire situation, those firefighters can literally be in danger. And our first deal with our firefighters is they need to be safe first before they go in.
Lawmakers wrapping up the session today. Can we talk to you about that when we get back?
Sure.
Shreveport Mayor Tom Arsenault in studio. Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710keel.com.
Let's get back to the show with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 Keel.
In studio, Shreveport Mayor Tom Arsenault joining us. Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710 Keel. Well, the legislative session going to wrap up today. And Shreveport's getting millions and millions.
You're sending a truck down there today to pick it all up, right?
Absolutely. Yes, I'm looking for good armored car drivers.
So how'd we do?
Well, I haven't gotten a final report yet. I know the Senate met on the budget yesterday, and I'm awaiting the information from our contacts down there that maintain all of that for us. And I haven't gotten that report yet, but I expect it to be a good report.
You were wanting some money from capital outlay. I know you told us for Linwood, and there were other projects you were working on. I didn't hear any hiccups on those. It sounded like they might be moving through.
Well, it really is a matter of, I think that our legislative delegation was united to assist us with those. The question is, where were the final priorities and where did the final votes go on that? Fortunately, in the Senate, we have two very well-positioned senators, Sam Jenkins and Thomas Presley, both on influential committees. So hopefully that will result in a very nice result for us.
Bills that are going to change things that we have to do in Shreveport. Do you have a few that you're a little bit concerned about?
The only ones that I am aware of, just off the top of my head, Aaron, are We will need to make some changes in the school zone cameras issue. We'll have to do some negotiation with the Caddo Parish School Board. There will be a lot of people that are involved in that. For example, a significant part of that money right now goes to early childhood education, which is basically was done so that there could be matching state funds for that. It's been a highly successful program, but it is not in the basic set of priorities of what city governments do.
Sure.
And so we're hopeful that that's something that the Caddo Parish School Board will pick up because it is in their wheelhouse and not in ours, and we'll be having those discussions. There are also some administrative changes that need to be made to the program, and we'll be making those. There may be a time when we're unable to process those tickets, depending on the effective date. Most of the time, the effective date of state legislation is August 1st. I'm not sure what the effective date of that particular act is. If it's immediate, then we won't be able to act quite that quickly.
Following up on the very successful bond election, 80% public approval on these three bonds.
Yeah, I thankfully lost a steak dinner on that.
Yeah.
Did you really?
I did. Well, not on his passage, but on the margin. I had one of my closest friends, and I had a bet. He said it would be 80%. I said it would be less than 80%, and I lost the steak dinner, and I'm thrilled to pay it off.
That's a bet.
Absolutely thrilled to pay it off.
Get you a big one, my friend. Yeah.
So obviously the bonds have to be issued. Where are we on this process, and when do you expect to? What's your first project? Start turning dirt.
We are still working on what those might be able to be. I know that the CAO, Tom Dark, has been putting together the draft of a request for proposals for project managers, which we committed to do and are going to do. Program managers really is a better term for that. And we will be getting ready to issue those. We've had some assistance from people who know what they're doing in that area. This is a new venture for us, and we're confident that we can do that. I suspect that the very first projects will be water and sewer projects because we already have engineers working on those designs. As you know, we can't design something until we have the money to design it, and streets particularly require that. So it is my estimate, not a commitment, that we'll have those projects identified before we sell the bonds, the first set of bonds, which will be sometime in the fall. So there won't be anything until the late part of this year, and probably most of the new activity will take place in 2025.
But see, that's such an improvement on previous bonds.
Sure.
So
when you see, I don't know how familiar you are since you've been on vacation with the what's going on in Atlanta today. I gave you just a little heads up. Massive water outage in the city of Atlanta, one of our nation's biggest cities, because water main breaks all around town this week. May have had something to do with the heat, I don't know. And it's because of aging infrastructure. But for the grace of God, could be Shreveport.
Well, we're always subject to that. I think we do a pretty good job of maintaining our aging infrastructure. And, of course, there's $82 million in water and sewer improvements, including significant water improvements at the Amos water treatment plant, so that there's $20 million there that we're going to be upgrading to make sure that we have a ready water supply. And I think our people do a great job of managing what they have and maintaining the water system. We're also going to be facing some federal, as I say, unfunded mandates with respect to lead pipes and those kinds of things. And we're going to have to take a look at that. Our single biggest financial issues in the city of Shreveport over the next 15 years are going to be water and sewer issues because we have an old infrastructure and we have to improve it. Our
score for our water, as you well know, got an F. Some of our neighboring cities got A's and B's. William Daniel tells us we're on the mend. He anticipates that will be changing. Have you given him some marching orders with regard to that we need to see some improvements? And I guess improving the infrastructure is all part of that.
Well, I think once we do a lot of the infrastructure that we're planning to do, that score will improve. It has not been that way for a long time. I haven't dug into the details of why that is. I do know that on the bright side of that, it makes us eligible for a number of grants and low interest loans to cure some of the issues. So I think that will help us. It doesn't have to do with water quality. It has to do with the infrastructure system, and we'll deal with those issues.
The water towers, real quick. You picked the finalists in the art competition. How soon do you? I know Mr. Daniel said he's going to fix the water towers before we paint them.
Correct.
And then how soon do you anticipate the artists will get to work?
Well, I think that that's obviously the last part of the process. So I think now that we know that we're going to do that, we had some very good designs, and we'll be working with the artists. What they submitted was concepts, and so we have to actually project those onto a tower and see what it's going to look like and that kind of thing. Elizabeth and I were very interested as we drove around. We saw a lot of water towers and see what was going on with those, and we have a particular interest in making sure those are 20 or 30-year billboards, and so it's very important that they be both timely and classic.
Mm-hmm. Mayor Tom Arsenault, thanks for coming in.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
1017 FM, 710 KEEL. Coming up, by the way, the EMT that executed the flood rescue, Pierce Copeland, going to be joining us, hearing his story. Looking forward to talking with him. Mike and McCarty, 1017 FM, 710 KEEL.
Now more breaking news and trending talk with Mike and McCarty on 1017 FM and 710 KEEL.
Well, we remember seeing images from the flooding that took place last week. Cars stranded in the middle of Uri Drive, a lot of damage, a lot of high water. We've got an EMT, Pierce Copeland, going to join us coming up just after the break. He performed an exciting floodwater rescue. We're going to hear his story coming up next. 1017 FM, 710keel.com.
Back to the big stories of the day with Mike and McCarty on 1017 FM and 710 KEEL.
On the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline, Mike and McCarty, we've got Pierce Copeland, EMT. Pierce, good morning.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Good.
Well, we're doing well. Thank you for agreeing to talk with us this morning. Tell me, are you with the Shreveport Fire Department? Who are you with?
I'm with Valentine Ambulance.
You rescued some women from floodwaters. Tell us where this happened, when this happened.
So this was on Claiborne Avenue, in between Mansfield and Linwood. So you turn off Kings, hit Linwood, turn right on Claiborne. It's in between those two train tracks. Mm-hmm. There's a huge divot. And whenever that flash flood happened, there's just a mass amount of water that gathered over time and kind of pulled up right there. And it happened about 8:15 p.m., I think May 22nd.
And you see, you're in your ambulance, I guess, and you see the car stranded, not realizing there were people inside. Take it from there.
Yeah, so I pulled up, me and my partner, and we were initially taking a detour because Kings was flooded. We were trying to get back to the station. We pulled up to it and saw two cars just in this water, and I looked at it. I looked at my partner. I was like, "There's no way that the people are still in there, right?" I mean, and I took a picture of it just to kind of because it was just kind of bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after they took the picture, I saw somebody's hand waving out of the car to the right.
Oh,
And it was
wow.
just waving out of the driver's side window.
Oh.
And I looked at my partner. I was like, oh, my God. So I emptied my pockets. I jumped out, and I ran towards it. Lady looked at me and was like, I can't swim, and I can't get my door open. And so I said, okay, I'm going to help you through the window. She was like, okay. She grabbed her purse. I took her purse, put it on the top of the car.
Did you have to break the
And
window, or was it she had gotten it down?
No, well, thankfully she had it down already.
Okay.
So I got her. I grabbed her and I got her out of the window, and I kind of got her towards where she can put her feet down, and I told her to go walk to the ambulance.
Mm.
And as soon as I did that, I heard someone to my left shouting to me, saying that she needs help. And so there's another car, and the driver was telling me that there was another lady in the passenger side who was hemiplegic. She was paralyzed on the left side. She couldn't swim. She couldn't do anything. And so I ran towards that car, and it was getting pretty deep towards there. It was about 4.5 to 5 feet. The water was getting pretty close to the top of the roof.
Oh, no.
What kind of
and
vehicle was it?
It was a white sedan, and the other car was a sedan. I forgot the color of it, but they were both just commuter cars.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not something for high waters.
Right. How deep do you estimate the water was? Was it up to their door handles or something like that, or?
It was well past the door handles. It was I'd say when I got to the first car, it was kind of still on the downslope of the little divot. It was about 3.5 to 4 feet of water, and the second car was probably about 4.5 to 5 feet of water. Thankfully, the trunk side of the car was still floating, so they still kind of had some leverage to where there was a pocket of air in there.
So how did you get her out?
Wow.
The passenger side. How did you get her out?
So the car door was locked and the window was rolled up.
Oh.
And thankfully on the driver's side, the window was up and I was able to get the car door open. And so I helped her to get her foot stance, and she walked off into dry land. And then I was like, okay, well, so it was pretty pitch black. Like the only light I was working with was the headlights of my ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
And, there were crazy shadows from the other side of the car. And
Now, did your buddy in the ambulance not get out and help you?
well, Sharon, she didn't know how to swim. And
Oh, gosh.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want her to, risk her life like that because, if it was too deep or there's a pocket of water that was just, a lot deeper than expected, I didn't want her to put her life at risk.
Gotcha.
Sure. So you get the driver out, and then you got to go back to get what was the person who was paralyzed?
Right. Well, thankfully, the driver was able to swim a little bit, so I was able to kind of help her out, and then she, it wasn't that far until she could kind of get her, kind of stand on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But I turned back around and I hit the unlock mechanism on the driver's side of the door. Hopefully the circuit still worked. And I kind of put my hand on the thing that pops up on the, near the window.
Yeah.
To signal if the car is locked or unlocked. Kind of put it there because I couldn't see it. And I hit the unlock button and it popped up. So I was like, oh, thank God. So maybe that worked on the passenger side. So at that point, I hit the unlock. I swam over the hood and I got to the passenger side door.
Swam over the hood.
And you get her out?
I was able to open the door and I was like, ma'am, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, I'm okay. And her head was tilted upwards to try to get a pocket of water. And in between words, she was gargling water.
So water is coming up on her face.
Wow.
Right. It was the last minute. Definitely.
Wow.
So this wasn't just getting somebody out of a car. This was an actual life-saving rescue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. It was just
Wow.
the right place, right time. It was definitely the right time.
Pierce, it's one of those stories that we all say this was a God moment to put you in that place at that time to save these 3 women. You must believe that as well, huh?
Absolutely. I really do believe that.
Do you keep in touch with these women? Have they contacted you? Have you heard anything from them?
No, ma'am. I made sure they were okay after the incident. After I carried out the passenger, I carried her to the stretcher, got her in the back. I got her warmed up, and her driver, I got her in the back, and I got them all good. They didn't want to go to the ambulance, or they didn't want to go to a hospital, so I waited for one of their daughters to come pick them up. Mm-hmm. And so I just made sure they were all good, and I haven't really kept in contact with them since, but they're fine. They're good.
What made you do this? It's other people, and you would hope they would do the same for you, I guess, huh?
I guess so. I didn't really go through a thought process. I just kind of did it.
You just jumped in.
Pretty much.
Wow.
I don't know. I didn't really think about repercussion.
Lesson to all of us: don't try to drive through high water, huh?
No kidding. I just don't understand the thought process behind trying to. Maybe it was kind of hard to see. It was dark, and I don't know.
But sometimes if you back up and take a run at it, you can get through that high
you can't.
water.
That's not true.
Exactly.
It's not true. Pierce Copeland, a hero today. I'm sure you will be honored by folks in our community, and those ladies, I'm sure, owe their lives to you today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pierce. Stay safe. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty.
Back with more of Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
On 7 FM 710 KEEL. Mike and McCarty. So you had the Louisiana Seafood Cook-Off on Friday. Mm-hmm. Stayed in Monroe. Funroe.
Yeah.
Friday night.
Yes. Got to taste some of the best food I've ever eaten. I mean, it was spectacular. From restaurants in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Thibodaux, Lafayette, Monroe. The winner was from Monroe, Chase Woodard, with a tuna dish that was just divine.
We drove over. We got tickets. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor.
You bet.
And my wife and I enjoyed the evening immensely. And some of your friends got to come over, and we just had a great time. And it was funny because on the way over, my cousins, I told you, live, I think it's the exit where the Bonnie and Clyde Museum is.
Oh, Gibbsland.
So
okay.
Gibbsland, which is a pretty good haul over there. I hadn't been farther than that. I haven't been past that exit probably since Micah was in college.
Wow.
We would drive, to Auburn. Mm-hmm. And so I haven't been to Ruston or Monroe in years.
I was stunned how quick it's a drive. It's an hour and a half now. I mean, you can go if you were to speed, you can, and you can make it very quickly. Not that I did, but you can.
But it's hard to control that Bentley when it's so smooth riding and it's so just quiet.
I mean, if you're not going 75, you're getting run over, And the speed limit is 70, so everybody's going 75 or 80. And so it makes that drive so easy. I'd forgotten. I used to think it was a 2.5 hour drive. It's not. It's an hour and a half now.
Once you get past the construction, going into Bossier, you're crossing the river, and then it narrows down into one lane. Aaron, I am sick of people. You get in line because it's narrowing down.
Oh, yeah.
And these butt munches just keep going past you.
On your right, yep.
On your left.
Excuse me, on your left, yeah.
So, I'm the guy who moves over into that left lane and blocking you. Mm-hmm. Aaron, I had one guy go around the barrels and then go up and have to wait.
Yes, exactly.
Because he's so important that he had to get past everybody else and then cause the line to jam up even more.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
If it weren't illegal to shoot some of these people,
It's illegal.
wait a minute, it is illegal.
It is illegal. Yeah, it is illegal to shoot them. And
And then you've got 18-wheelers that are still going up in there.
I saw the cops writing tickets, though.
Well,
I was happy to see that.
I wish they'd do more of that.
They were up there in force on the way over and on the way back on Saturday morning. I saw them, out in force. And one 18-wheeler, he passed up the 220 exit, so he was heading into the construction zone. He was behind me, and he pulled over onto the shoulder because I think he realized, oops, I missed the exit. I'm finna get a ticket. Because he saw all the troopers out.
Right, yeah.
So before he got to industrial, he pulled over on the shoulder. I'm like, what are you going to do now, big guy?
Yeah, where are you going
back
now?
up? What you going to do? Like, you better exit industrial and hope they have some sympathy for you that you pulled over at least.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you missed your exit. They do need more signage, though. I will say their signs about no trucks come up on you kind of late. And if you didn't happen to see the sign, you missed it. So it's a little bit of a struggle.
Marie Centani from Lobby going to join us coming up just after the news top of the hour, talking about the legislative session that's wrapping up today. Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL. On 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty, and on the Jack Spring Electric Newsmaker Hotline from Lobby, Marie Centani joining us. Marie, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Thank you for joining us. Louisiana legislative session wraps up today. So were there any big wins for Louisiana business?
There's quite a few big wins. I've got a 3-page list in front of me. It's actually quite incredible. Normally we get to the end of the sessions and people kind of scratch their heads and say, did they really accomplish anything? And I think this year we can say they most definitely did. The last time I visited with you guys was last September when Lobby had just revealed our LA 23 strategic plan, which, if you recall, was that list of recommendations of things that we can do now to really position Louisiana as an economic leader in the South by 2030. It's a bold list of bills, policy things, some regulatory changes that can happen at various levels of state and local government. And, when we sat, it seemed like an ambitious to-do list, but what we saw when the legislature began this session is they took on quite a bit of it, and we're really excited this last day of the session to see just how much of it made it across the finish line.
There was a lot of talk about tax reform and insurance reform and those kinds of things that were going to help business. We still have a ways to go, though, on those fronts, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah. The tax, and really next year is a fiscal session, and that's where most of the tax bills will have to be taken up. Lobby did support the idea of a constitutional convention because when you think about how complex our tax structure is and how you really want this tax reform to be comprehensive, if you tweak one thing here, it's going to change someone's bottom line there. So doing it piece by piece is not as ideal as doing a comprehensive sort of attack of our tax structure. So we'll just have to get to that next year when we get into that fiscal session. And then in terms of insurance reform, quite a bit was done. It was the focus of a lot of attention and a lot of discussion and disagreements. But when you look at what was signed, it is definitely a move towards making Louisiana more competitive in terms of attracting more carriers to write policies for property insurance, definitely. I think we probably have a little way to go on auto insurance, but we do have some bills in the final stages today and on the governor's desk waiting to be signed that could help on that front as well. But those are definitely some major barriers to business that LA-driven focuses on.
You have your initiative, the LA 23, your roadmap for Louisiana to make us an economic leader in the South by 2030. We still have a ways to go. What are the top 3 things that Louisiana needs to do to make that happen?
Well, we'll say this, and we rebranded LA 23 as LA Driven because we realized, it really is a movement to implement these goals of LA 23. And so LA Driven focuses on how do we implement this to-do list? And we call it a to-do list because we don't ever want it to be considered a wish list, right? And so I would say the top things we can do now, one, urge the governor to sign the collateral source bill. It's on his desk, and this is one of the major moves that will help with the tort reform in terms of taking on our auto insurance crisis. Number two, pay attention and get involved with Bessie. Bessie is going to be implementing the ESA, the Education Savings Account, figuring out what that dollar allocation is per pupil and really cracking the nut on how to implement this major reform for Louisiana education and parent choice. The third thing is I would tell businesses, open your doors to students. One of the major focuses of LA Driven, and so if you remember, there were four areas of work to get Louisiana where it needs to be. Number one is making sure that our talent pool is the best it can be. Those are adults needing recertification. Those are college grads needing to graduate, ready to take on the world. And those are middle school and high school students needing early career exposure so that they have an idea of what path they want to go down starting young and not wasting time and money on something they might not have an aptitude for. And so half of that can be done in the classroom, but the other half requires business to come to the table and say, all right, whether it's a career fair and we can send somebody to speak about their job and what they earn and what sort of education they needed to get to where they are, or whether it is opening your doors to a paid apprenticeship at the high school level. There's a lot that business can do to really help make sure Louisiana's talent pool and therefore our citizens are ready for the opportunities that we bring.
Talking with Marie Centani from Lobby. Marie, our governor, Jeff Landry, ran, on a very, very conservative platform. Do you think he's followed up on that? How would you grade him so far in his first term?
I think we saw a lot of things go through this session that would not have had the same momentum under the previous governor. And so for that, we're very grateful, especially when you look at some of the education reform movements that were put in place. And we're not just talking the ESAs. That was a major priority of the governor. But there are things like high dosage tutoring. The school superintendent, the state superintendent being able to send a COO in to failing schools to really take a hard look at why these schools are not doing what they're supposed to be doing. There's a lot in that educational bucket that I don't think we would have achieved under the previous governor. The other thing, outside of the session, he signed that ITEP executive order at our annual meeting, and that was one of the top priorities of LA Driven, was to get our major incentive for manufacturers working again. So I'd give him a pretty good grade. We'll see. We still have some things on his desk that we're waiting for him to sign.
Marie, another topic on your LA-driven list is a safe state with reduced crime rates. There was a lot of talk about rolling back the criminal justice reform measures, and that could help make our state safer. How are we doing on that front? Have we done that? Did this legislate? I know they had a crime session prior, but where are we with regard to we've got to get a handle on the crime rates?
Yeah, there was, as you said, there was a special session on crime earlier this year that passed a number of measures. And in the budget that was passed out yesterday, I think there was money in there to implement a few of those things. And then beyond that, there was a lot this session that kind of stayed below the radar in the headlines, looking at ways to make sure that if an incarcerated person, if we've got a captive audience, let's face it, are we doing the best with them to make sure that they're being trained, they're being educated, and they're being put in a position not to return once they serve their time and enter back into society? And we're talking very simple things. When was the last time you've ever lost your birth certificate and had to go through the rigmarole of trying to get that document again? When juveniles leave the justice system, they're not often given access to these things, and that's what they need to re-enter society. When you think about trying to get a job, trying to enroll in school, your birth certificate and some of these ID documents are critical to jumping over that barrier that's holding you back. And maybe they're not in the best family situation. Maybe they don't have access to resources to get something like a copy of their birth certificate. And so there's a couple of bills that make sure when they leave the system, they have all of the paperwork like that needed so that there's no excuse. So there's a couple of things like that were done this session, looking at, are we working on getting them their GEDs while they're in prison? Are we studying mental health? Are we really looking at particularly with juveniles, making sure that they're getting educated while they're incarcerated.
One more thing with regard to education, and it connects to whether they're going to end up in prison or not. It looks like here at the last minute they're cutting some $9 million from early childhood education, which the whole state has been preaching is where we need to focus. This is where we need to focus. So why cut that? What are you a little worried about that?
Well, it's a disappointing cut, and certainly the state budget is billions of dollars, and so there are gives and takes everywhere you look for different funding priorities. Early education, when we look at it, you can look at it from two different perspectives. One, it's an opportunity to make sure that our young people are ready for kindergarten. And that might sound a bit extreme. You say, well, kindergarten's supposed to get you ready for school. Kindergarten's the first step. But, in a child care center, they can do things like say, oh, maybe your child needs a little speech therapy. Maybe we're noticing this about your child. Let's work on that so that they don't start school, on the back foot. The other thing, it's a workforce issue. It is difficult in some areas of the state to find quality child care that will allow parents to work to their fullest. And so we're disappointed in that cut. There are hopefully some other means of funding this. But, that's something we're definitely going to continue to get funded at the highest level possible in the coming years.
Marie Centani with Lobby, thank you for your time, and we'll stay on top of this.
Absolutely. You can find more at labi.org.
Thanks.
Thanks, Marie. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty.
Let's get back to the show with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
I noticed traffic signal light out on my way into work this morning.
Oh, really? Okay.
And some limbs, pretty substantial limbs, were down in the street. You had to kind of watch out for. Of course, it was dark, so had to be real careful this morning. I'm looking at the SWEPCO outage map. This is the storm that came through last night. Pretty large area down around Stonewall and Frierson in that area, but looks like about 12,500 still without power.
Oh, wow.
As a result of last night's storm. So be aware, SWEPCO is working on it. Also, look, if the lights aren't functioning at an intersection, that doesn't mean you can just blow on through.
Right.
There ain't no light. I can go.
Yeah.
Well, you can go after you treat it like a four-way stop.
Please. Absolutely. Definitely.
And if you don't know how a four-way stop works, look it up.
Google it.
How did you get your drum line?
I know.
If you don't know how a four-way stop works.
Exactly. It's that was a big storm, though. It was loud. And Bo was kind of going a little bit wackadoodle last night. I was like having to calm him down because the thunder boomers were big, really big.
So if you come up to a four-way stop, and because even my daughter texted me the other day, and because in Dallas they had like 500,000 without power, so a lot of intersections were had no working traffic signal. She goes, Dad, nobody knows how a four-way stop works. And if you pull up to an intersection with no working traffic signal or a four-way stop, the car on the right always has the right of way.
Yes. Whoever's to your right. Unless you beat them there.
Well, yeah, if you're the first one there, that person has the right of way.
Right.
But if you pull up at the same time, the driver on the right has the right of way.
Yep.
I hope I'm not being confusing about this.
Just look to your right. If you got there at the same time as that car, they have the right of way. Whoever's to your right.
And try to make eye contact with the other driver.
Yeah.
Because if they think they got there first.
And it doesn't hurt to wave them on.
Yeah.
Look, if you want to go. Wave them on. Yeah. For crying out loud. Yeah, it's frustrating.
So, yeah, be careful at those intersections because there still may be signals out right now.
Yeah.
I didn't notice any any downed power lines.
No, I did not either. I did see the confirmation, by the way, from the National Weather Service from last week's storms, 3 tornado touchdowns in DeSoto Parish. So they did go out and they did examine that damage, and they did say, yes, these were definitely tornadoes, as we heard from the sheriff down there. because there was some significant damage across parts of DeSoto Parish. Haven't heard anything about tornadoes from last night, but it was a doozy of a storm. Loud, a lot of rain and thunder, and still some folks without power again this morning.
And we've got more. We got some more rain coming today.
Stop.
I know, probably not too bad, but by Thursday we're looking at sunshine.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Holy cow. Well, just be safe. And if you're without power, be patient.
Download that SWEPCO app.
Yeah.
If you haven't, that is a great app.
It's the easiest way.
Let them know, that you're without power, and you don't think, well, they know.
Mm-hmm.
You never know.
Right.
I've had mine go out, and my next door neighbor's is still on.
Yes.
So it's not like a wide outage that they're automatically aware of.
Right.
So anyway,
Definitely.
Be safe. Mm-hmm. 4-way stops. Be careful. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL.
Now more breaking news and trending talk with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
Shreveport police were able to capture the carjacking suspect. Is that right? Did I get that right?
Not quite. We're not sure. Caddo deputies caught a guy they believe was a carjacking suspect. We're not sure if it's the same carjacking, though, from the Shreve City area.
Lord.
So what happened was this guy that he was spotted in Vivian. Vivian police tried to pull him over. He fled. So Caddo deputies help and give chase, and then they catch the guy. He wrecked the car after going to 100 miles an hour. Wrecked the car on Highway 168. He has to be taken to auctioner. Now, the car he was in was stolen, they believe, in a carjacking. We don't know if it was the carjacking from Shreveport. I have had several people who have told me, there was a carjacking at the Shreve City area at the gas pumps there in front of Walmart. Mm-hmm. Don't know much about it.
By the way, I was just there.
I'm there all the time. I typically don't gas at the Walmart because I don't trust. I always get hit up by people that want money in there. So, but if you're going to carjack somebody, just note to self, Walmart's probably not the good place to do it. Because if you were to pick any corporate company in the world that has cameras, most cameras.
Yeah, they're all over that Walmart.
Walmart has cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
They're going to have video of everything you did. And I don't know any of the circumstances about the carjacking at the Walmart yet. We're awaiting that information. But I'm curious, Mike, and I'm trying to get a hold of the police department. They're not going to probably carjack you, or probably not Ruben, but it's going to be somebody like me. Somebody that's going to probably not be paying attention, going to jump out of my car, throw my card in the machine, and start gassing in my car.
Do you check the machine, too, by the way, before you insert your debit card?
I do.
Do you look at that?
I do. I watch them. I look at the machine to make sure there's not another gadget on it of some sort.
Or you try to do your best because they're pretty sophisticated now.
Yes, you watch that.
But when you pull up to a gas pump, are you scanning the area? Paying attention to who's hanging out in that area?
I typically don't. And that's a problem. That's a problem for all of us.
And I try to tell my mom and my sister and my wife and my daughter, look, pay attention to your surroundings.
But I will tell you that's one of the reasons I don't get gas at that Walmart, because there are always people hanging out. There's always people when you pull in right behind that, a mattress place. There's always people hanging there that want money.
I saw a guy, Aaron, sitting there yesterday, sitting on the curb. I mean, it looked like he was mixing his drugs just right there in his lap, sitting on the curb.
No, I don't give him cash anymore.
No,
I don't.
No, do not.
But I don't know. I must have an L on my forehead because I get approached every time I go in there. Every time I pull into there to get gas, somebody approaches me.
I used to feel bad about, and not anymore. I don't anymore. Look, I don't give away. I said, I don't have cash. I don't give out cash. back off. Go get a job.
I did something the last 2 times I got approached, and this helped me, and this might help you if you're listening. I was told by a close friend that said, if somebody is approaching you and you know they're going to panhandle, you need to, in a loud voice, say, stop. You're too close to me. You're now making me feel uncomfortable. Stop where you are, and I'll listen to you from there. And if they don't stop, you get back in your vehicle and get out. You make sure to stop them before they get into your circle where they can harm you. Mm-hmm. And the loud voice and telling them, stop, I'm willing to listen to you, but stop where you are. If you take another step,
I'm not listen to their bullshit.
And it's worked for me. They have stopped. They stopped moving forward. Mm-hmm. And if you can stop them from moving forward, you can at least have a little bit of control. Like I can move back toward my car door.
Sure.
I can kind of
jump that safe space.
Jump in my car. But I'm wondering, because they're fast. They run up on you quick. They put a gun to your side, and then they jump in your car. And a lot of us, bad habit, a lot of us leave our keys in our car when we gas up.
Yeah, bad habit.
Don't take our keys with us. Take your keys with you. Put them in your pocket.
My daughter called me one day, and she said, Dad, I leave my gun in the car when I'm gassing up. Mm-hmm. And she goes, and a guy came up and approached her. And she goes, and I couldn't, and she goes, I got nervous. What do I do? I said, were you pumping your gas? And she goes, yeah. I said, pull it out of the gas and spray this son of a gun down.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea either.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to keep folks out of your circle.
If you feel threatened.
Yes.
Not if you're just annoyed.
Right.
If you feel threatened and you feel you're in danger, yeah, you've got a weapon right there in your hand with that gas nozzle.
Mm-hmm. I would like to urge the retail giants like the Walmarts of the world
do a better job.
Do a better job.
Circle K, do a better job.
Run the people off. Make sure they know they're not welcome. And, if you have to keep calling the police, keep calling the police to get them off your property. Walmart doesn't seem to care. I mean, those people are sitting at that Walmart all the damn time.
Circle K doesn't seem to care either.
They just let them hang out.
Yeah.
And I guess and it probably is. They're probably screaming at the radio now. We've called the police. They don't come, or whatever. You can't do anything about it because they're just coming back. I just struggle with it. I just know that for me, you got to keep them from getting in your circle. That's number one.
Yes.
And then you got to try to keep yourself safe. If you have to stop pumping your gas and jump back in your car, by all means do it. But take your keys with you when you get out of your car.
Absolutely. And
I
lock
also
your
take
car.
my cell phone, too. Take your cell phone out of the car with you in case you need it. Just a couple of tips. Now, we're waiting to get the details on what happened at that Shreve City Walmart and try to find out, if it indeed was a carjacking, are they related to the one the chase that ended up with the Caddo deputies? We'll have to try to find out. Anyway.
Mike and McCarty, 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, and on the free KEEL app.
Back with more of Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
Did you say you've seen Hamilton?
I have not. No.
Okay.
Have you?
I have not.
Okay.
Because of what I've heard, not interested.
Really?
Yeah. I liked Lin-Manuel Miranda. Is that how you say his name? Miranda?
No clue.
Lin-Manuel. In House. He was in a series while House, the doctor, Gregory House, was in rehab at some point, and Lin-Manuel played a character in the rehab. It was a lovable little character, and I liked him in that. He seems to be a nice guy.
Have some friends who went to Dallas to see
liberal.
Hamilton, and they thoroughly enjoyed it.
My daughter texted me, and she said, Dad, by intermission, I was like, get me out of here.
She didn't like it?
She didn't like it.
Really?
That's my girl.
She didn't like the singing, or?
Well, first of all, it's rap.
Okay.
It's not singing.
Okay.
And you just can't cast. We're against the clock.
Yeah.
I don't know. Casting, I didn't agree with. I'll just leave it there.
Okay.
Just because. But I was proud of my daughter.
Oh boy.
You're running down next. 101.7 FM 710 KEEL.
Let's get back to the show with Mike and McCarty on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL.
Aaron McCarty here, and let me tell you about a little secret before we get back to talking about some interesting stuff. Anderson's Produce and Plant Farm. They're located in Coshada. I went down there 2 weekends ago on their opening weekend. They are celebrating 25 years. And yes, their farm is expansive. They have fresh tomatoes. Is that how you say it? Tomatoes? Okra, sweet corn, purple whole peas, squash, zucchini, peppers, onions, potatoes, beans, so much more. The peaches, oh my gosh, the peach trees are loaded with peaches, and they are sweet and juicy. You're not going to find them like that in any grocery store in town. If you're looking for fresh produce, veggies, and all kinds of fruits, they have got it at Anderson's Produce and Plant Farms, located in Coshada. Make the short drive. It is worth your while. Again, Anderson Produce and PlantFarm.com.
I saw a story, last week. Robert De Niro. Did you see his little tirade?
Of course,
on the streets there in New York? And he's come out before because if Trump gets elected, he's going to destroy New York, going to destroy the state. He's going to destroy the whole world will implode. I mean, the world is going to literally implode upon itself if Trump gets elected, and it's going to be his fault. So, yeah, De Niro's so unhinged. And I'm not one that can easily separate the art from the artist. I can't watch Meryl Streep anymore. I can't watch Sean Penn anymore. In our Sunday school class, Brian Cox, the Scottish actor who was in Braveheart, I really liked him until I heard something he ranted about. And I was just like, oh, why don't you shut your mouth? But De Niro was apparently scheduled to receive a National Association of Broadcasters award for their Leadership Foundation service to America. And after his little tirade, they went, nah.
Yeah. We'll leave you alone.
Not that he cares.
Right, exactly.
But it was a little encouraging to me that somebody did step up and go, we're not going to honor this idiot.
Not happening, yeah.
It just made me a little bit of satisfaction.
Sometimes I wonder why some of them just do what you do. Just do what you do and do it great and be the best at what you do. But they want to get involved.
And he's just unhinged. Now, Mike Farrell, who played B.J. Honeycutt on MASH, I remember years ago seeing an interview with him, and I hope he's still this way. I mean, you think as he got older, but of course, De Niro got dumber as he gets older. But Mike Farrell he was left and obviously liberal, but he was so respectful. And intelligently discussed his viewpoints that I was like, I can respect this.
Right.
We can have an intelligent discourse and disagree, but he wasn't trying to cancel anybody. He wasn't trying to, and it's just like, we've lost our civility.
Yes, definitely. And they will never listen to you.
No.
It just won't happen. Yeah.
If you don't agree now, they're going to do you, if like they're doing Donald Trump. They're going to cancel you and try to throw you in jail.
Right.
Now I'm pibbed. 101.7 FM, 710 KEEL, Mike and McCarty.